what is the difference between tonic nuclear and stress? And what's the difference between tone group and breath group? Well, partly the difference, I think, is a matter of the terminology used by a given author. When I say nucleus of an intonation group, I'm meaning the same thing as Halliday means by speaking of the tonic, or some American authors mean by speaking of the intonation center, or other people may mean by other things like sentence stress or main sentence stress. We're all talking about the same thing. I have the O'Connor Arnold University College tradition where we distinguish between stress and accent, in that stress is this matter of rhythmic beats. Accent involves the combination of stress with some kind of intonational prominence. So that stresses after the nucleus, for example, are still stressed. Good morning, Mr. Jenkinson. Mr. Jenkinson, they're still rhythmic beats, but they're not accents. They don't have intonational prominence, they're just low and level, unimportant. Whereas earlier accents in general, combine pitch movement and emphasis through rhythmic beats. People use the word stress in a number of different ways, though, and you just have to see how the author defines it. I have also experimented with such expressions as tonic stress or intonational stress rather than accent. As far as tone group and breath group are concerned, well, again, what do you call the chunks into which you divide a longer piece? If they're intonational chunks, we can call them tone groups. Some people call them tone units. There are other terms as well, aren't there? Anyhow.
Oh, I call mine tone units.
Okay, tone groups or tone units. Breath groups may well coincide with them, but breath groups must surely be defined in physiological terms. Breath groups, you take breaths between breath groups. Ready to say what comes next, and then something else. Now, depending on the speed at which you speak, you typically don't take breaths at every boundary between tone groups, tone units, but only for some of them. Likewise, pauses. Well, if a pause is a real complete cessation of a silence, not all boundaries between tone units are necessarily pauses, but some of them will be, and at least there's the potential for a pause. I would say that between successive tone units, tone groups, there is the potential for a pause, and there's the potential to take a breath, but I wouldn't want to define them in those terms.
I find that breath group is sometimes used in a synonymous way with tone unit. I do find that it does get used like that sometimes. I can see the point of using it. I mean, sometimes I say to my students, okay, this is when you've run out of breath, so you need to, so you've got another unit. But it's possible to have several tone units and not actually have a breath at all. In fact, I've just done a couple, so it's possible to do that. But in some cases, you do see that it's used that they're used as synonymous terms. I've seen that before. But generally speaking, I'm more interested in the intonation pattern. I'm not interested in whether my speakers are blue in the face because they've run out of breath or not. So I'd stick to the term tone units, and when they're all gasping for air on the floor, then I will let them take a breath. Isn't that mean? No, but
asphyxia as a phonetic unit.
Absolutely, yes. But I think if you're interested in intonation, you want to say tone unit or tone group, really. Breath group, I think it can be misleading, because it could mean when you take a breath, and when you take a breath might be one or two or more tone units. So